The summer breeze carried the scent of honeysuckle and barbecue across the sprawling lawn of our family's estate in upstate New York. It was my 25th birthday, and the garden buzzed with life, laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft strum of a hired guitarist under a canopy of fairy lights. Oak trees framed the scene, their branches heavy with August leaves, casting dappled shadows over the guests. Cousins trading stories, aunts sipping rosé, and my Stanford friends marveling at the Hayes family's opulence. But beneath the festive glow, a storm was brewing, one I'd been trained to anticipate but never wanted to face. My name is Clara Hayes, and at 25, I was about to learn the cost of trust. I stood near the dessert table, a tower of macarons and chocolate-dipped strawberries, adjusting the silver bracelet my grandmother, Evelyn Hayes, had given me 6 months ago. It was a simple band, engraved with a single word, resolve. In her hospital room, her frail hands had trembled as she slipped it onto my wrist, but her eyes were sharp as ever. "You're my hawk, Clara," she'd whispered. "Soar above the noise and strike when the moment's right." I hadn't understood then, not fully, but her words echoed now as I scanned the crowd, my senses heightened. My parents, Robert and Lillian Hayes, held court by the gazebo, my father's booming laugh drawing eyes as he recounted a half-true tale of his latest business deal. My younger sister, Vanessa, 22, flitted between guests, her emerald green designer dress catching the light as she played the perfect hostess. Vanessa had always been the family's darling, charismatic, impulsive, and convinced her charm entitled her to everything. Her Instagram following nearing 200,000 was her proudest achievement, built on curated photos of yacht trips and Parisian cafes, all funded by our parents. I, on the other hand, had clawed my way through a computer science degree at Stanford, graduated with a 4.0 GPA, and landed a senior developer role at Nexus Tech in Silicon Valley. But to my parents, my achievements were just Clara being Clara. Reliable, predictable, invisible. I sipped my sparkling water, the bubbles sharp against my tongue, when my cousin Nate approached, his phone tucked away for once. Nate, 27, was a freelance journalist, a quiet observer who saw through the Hayes family's polished facade. "You holding up okay?" he asked, his voice low, eyes scanning the crowd. "Just surviving," I said, forcing a smile. "You know how these parties go." He leaned closer, his expression darkening. "They're planning something. I overheard your parents by the pool house. They were talking about Grandma's estate. Vanessa was all over it." My stomach tightened, a cold knot forming. Grandma Evelyn's estate wasn't just money. It was control of Hayes Innovations, the tech company she'd built from a garage startup in the 1980s into a multimillion-dollar empire specializing in AI-driven logistics. Her will, read privately to me by her lawyer, Mr. Caldwell, had been explicit. I inherited 51% of the company, the family estate we stood on, and her personal fortune of $42 million. My parents had seen a preliminary document mentioning a $5 million trust fund for Vanessa, but I knew the real will, the one locked in Mr. Caldwell's safe, told a different story. Grandma had trusted me to carry her legacy, not Vanessa, who'd spent her college years chasing influencer fame and dropping out of 3 majors. "Why now?" I murmured, glancing at Vanessa as she posed for a selfie with our cousin Lily. Nate shrugged. "The will's deadline is next week, right? When the estate officially transfers? They're running out of time." I nodded, my fingers tracing the bracelet's engraving. Grandma had warned me in her final weeks, her voice raspy but firm. "They'll come for it, Clara. Your parents, Vanessa, they'll show their true colors when the money's on the line. Watch everything. Document everything." She'd squeezed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Be my hawk." Before I could respond to Nate, my father's voice cut through the guitarist's melody. "Clara, come here, sweetheart." His tone was warm, performative, but his eyes when I met them were cold, calculating. The crowd parted as I walked toward the gazebo, feeling every gaze, curious, pitying, predatory. Vanessa stood beside him, her smile sharp as a blade, while my mother adjusted her pearl necklace, avoiding my eyes entirely. "We have an announcement," my father said, raising his champagne glass. The music stopped, and the guests quieted, sensing the shift. Today's not just about Clara's birthday. It's about family, about dreams. "Vanessa, tell them." Vanessa stepped forward, her voice dripping with rehearsed sincerity. "I'm launching a tech startup. she declared, pausing for effect as polite applause rippled through the crowd. It's called Green Vibe, a platform blending AI and sustainable fashion to revolutionize eco-conscious shopping. It's my passion, my vision to change the world, but I need your support and Grandma's estate to make it happen. The words hit like a punch. Grandma's estate. My inheritance. I caught Nate's eye across the lawn. He was already filming, his phone discreetly angled. Aunt Susan, Grandma's younger sister, stood near the fire pit, her silver hair glinting, her expression unreadable but intense. "Clara," my mother said, her voice soft but edged with steel, "you've got that fancy job in California. You're set for life. Vanessa's dream is bigger. It's about legacy, about the Hayes name." I stared at her, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Grandma left the estate to me. Her will was clear. She read it to me herself. My father's smile vanished, his jaw tightening. "Don't be selfish, Clara. Vanessa's vision aligns with Hayes Innovations. You're just a coder, not a visionary. Sign the papers, transfer the inheritance to her, and let's keep this family united." The crowd shifted, some whispering, others pulling out phones to record. My friend Priya, a data scientist from Stanford, mouthed, "You okay?" from the sidelines. I gave her a subtle nod, my mind racing. Grandma's words echoed, "Strike when the moment's right." "Selfish?" I said, my voice rising despite myself. "I worked for everything I have. 4 years at Stanford, 16-hour study days, internships while Vanessa was, what? Posting selfies from Ibiza? Dropping out of college because it wasn't her vibe?" Vanessa's face flushed, but she recovered quickly, tossing her hair. "You're jealous, Clara. You've always been. Grandma made a mistake, and we're fixing it." "Fixing it?" I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. Grandma spent her last months teaching me about the company, about cash flow, patents, employee morale. She chose me because she knew I'd protect her legacy, not squander it on some half-baked startup you dreamed up last month. My father's hand shot up, and before I could react, his palm connected with my cheek. The slap echoed across the garden, sharp and final, silencing the crowd. A glass shattered on the patio. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in practiced shock, while Vanessa's smirk widened, barely concealed. Priya started toward me, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Sign the papers," my father growled, his face inches from mine, "or you're no longer a Hayes." My cheek burned, but Grandma's voice steadied me. Soar above the noise. I smiled, slow and deliberate, and saw my parents falter, unsettled by my calm. "No," I said simply. "I'll see you at the lawyer's office next week." "What lawyer?" Vanessa snapped, her confidence cracking for the first time. I didn't answer. I turned and walked toward the house, my father's shouts trailing me like a fading storm. "You ungrateful child. You'll regret this. You're nothing without us." Aunt Susan caught up with me at the driveway, her heels clicking on the cobblestones. "You knew they'd pull this?" she said, not a question, her eyes gleaming under the moonlight. I nodded, unlocking my car, a modest hybrid I'd bought with my own savings. "Grandma warned me. She said they'd show their true colors when the will's deadline hit." Susan's lips curved into a half smile. "Evelyn always said you were the hawk. Did you get it all recorded?" I glanced at Nate, jogging toward us, phone in hand. "Got it," he said, slightly out of breath. The slap, the threats, Vanessa's speech, crystal clear, 4K. "They have no idea what's coming, do they?" Susan said, her voice low, almost gleeful. I slid into the driver's seat, thinking of the meeting with Mr. Caldwell, the real will, and the video Grandma had recorded in secret. "No," I said, starting the engine. "They don't." That night, I stayed at Aunt Susan's cottage, a cozy stone house 20 minutes from the estate, nestled among pine trees. My phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts, voicemails, notifications from X where Nate's video had already gone viral, captioned "Family Drama at Millionaire's Birthday." Relatives sent a chaotic mix of messages. My cousin Lily called me greedy, accusing me of tearing the family apart. Uncle Mark, Susan's husband, sent a simple "proud of you, kid." Priya offered to fly out from California if I needed backup. Vanessa's texts were the worst, a string of taunts promising to turn my old bedroom into her creative studio and gloating about her future empire. I muted them all, focusing instead on the documents Grandma had entrusted to Mr. Caldwell. The inheritance wasn't just money, it was power. 51% of Hayes Innovations, valued at $180 million, gave me control of the board, the company's direction, and its assets, including the estate, 3 commercial properties in Albany, and a vacation home in the Adirondacks. My parents thought they'd seen the full will, a preliminary draft mentioning Vanessa's trust fund, but Grandma had been meticulous. Tired of watching my parents indulge Vanessa while dismissing my work, she'd spent her final year restructuring everything. "People only learn when they lose what they took for granted," she told me one evening, her voice sharp with conviction as we pored over company reports in her study. "You'll teach them, Clara, not with anger, but with resolve." Susan brought me a mug of chamomile tea as I sat at her kitchen table, my laptop open to a spreadsheet of Hayes Innovations financials. "Evelyn would be proud," she said, settling across from me. "You've got her fire, her patience. You're waiting for the right moment, aren't you?" I nodded, my eyes on the screen where red numbers glared. Declining revenue, high turnover, a 40% drop in market share over 5 years. Grandma taught me to watch, to wait, and to strike. She said the company's dying because Dad refuses to innovate. I've got plans to fix it, but first, I need to secure what's mine. Susan sipped her tea, her eyes narrowing. "Your father's desperate. He called me an hour ago, ranting about family loyalty. He thinks he can bully you into giving up the estate." "He's wrong," I said, closing the laptop. "I've got the will, the video, and Nate's footage. They can't touch me." "Be careful," Susan warned. "Robert's pride is dangerous, and Vanessa's smarter than she seems. They'll try to undermine you before the meeting." I thought of Vanessa's smirk, my mother's crocodile tears, my father's hand on my cheek. "Let them try," I said, my voice steady. Grandma taught me how to play this game. The week before the meeting was a gauntlet of manipulation. My father alternated between threats and promises, leaving voicemails that swung from "you'll be cut off forever" to "let's talk, Clara, we can work this out." My mother sent long, guilt-laden texts suggesting I give Vanessa just 75% of the estate to keep the peace and honor Grandma's memory. Vanessa, predictably, was already posting about her upcoming tech empire on Instagram, complete with mock-ups of an office in a sleek Albany building, one of the commercial properties Grandma had left to me. Her captions read, "Big things coming, green vibe, Hayes legacy," as if the money was already hers. I stayed at Susan's, working remotely for Nexus Tech while preparing for the meeting. Priya called daily, her voice a lifeline. "Your family's unhinged," she said one evening, her face pixelated on a video call. "That video's everywhere. X, TikTok, even Reddit. People are calling you a badass for walking away after the slap." "I didn't walk away," I said, smiling faintly. "I'm regrouping." "Atta girl," Priya said. "What's the plan? You gonna burn it all down?" "Not burn," I said, thinking of Grandma's bracelet. "Rebuild. They'll see." The morning of the meeting, I arrived early at Caldwell & Partners, a sleek law firm in downtown Albany with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. Mr. Caldwell, a wiry man in his 60s with a penchant for bow ties, greeted me with a knowing smile. "Everything's ready," he said, tapping a thick folder on his desk. Evelyn loved a good surprise. She'd have savored this moment. "Did you install the cameras?" I asked, my father's temper fresh in my mind. He nodded, gesturing to discreet lenses in the conference room and lobby. "Given recent events, we're taking no chances. Everything will be recorded." I exhaled, smoothing my blazer, a tailored navy piece I'd bought for my Nexus Tech interview. It felt like armor, a reminder of the life I'd built without my family's help. "Thank you," I said. "Let's do this." My family arrived in waves, their footsteps echoing in the marble lobby. First came the curious cousins. Lily, who texted me venomous accusations, avoided my gaze. Nate gave me a subtle thumbs up. Then Aunt Susan and Uncle Mark, who offered supportive nods. Finally, my parents swept in, my father in a bespoke suit, my mother clutching a designer purse like a shield. Vanessa trailed behind, her smugness intact, her phone already out, probably live streaming her big day. My father didn't wait for pleasantries. "This is a waste of time," he declared, striding into the conference room. "We can settle this privately, like family." "Like you settled things at Clara's birthday?" Aunt Susan shot back, her voice slicing through the tension. Lily flinched, no doubt recalling the viral video, now at 2 million views on X. Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat, unfazed. "Shall we begin?" My father tried to interrupt, but the lawyer pressed on, reading through minor bequests: $10,000 to a local STEM charity, small sums for distant relatives, a vintage car for Uncle Mark. The room grew restless, eyes darting to me, to my parents, to Vanessa's phone. Then Mr. Caldwell reached the main event. Regarding the primary estate, he said, pausing to meet my parents' gaze, including Hayes Innovations, the family residence, 3 commercial properties, and liquid assets, Evelyn Hayes left explicit instructions. My mother leaned forward, her pearls clicking. Vanessa scrolled her phone, probably drafting a victory post. My father's smirk was smug, expectant. The entire estate, Mr. Caldwell continued, his voice steady, is bequeathed to Clara Hayes, with conditions for its management and distribution. The room froze. Then chaos erupted. Impossible, my father roared, slamming his fist on the table, knocking over a water glass. We saw the will. It was a trust fund for Vanessa. That was a preliminary draft, Mr. Caldwell said, calm as ever. This is the final, notarized version, signed 3 months before Evelyn's death. Vanessa's phone clattered to the floor, her face pale. But my startup, Green Vibe. Furthermore, the lawyer went on, raising his voice slightly, the residence occupied by Robert and Lillian Hayes is part of the estate. Occupants have 30 days to purchase the property at market value or vacate. My mother's composure shattered, her voice a whisper. Vacate? That's our home. It's my home, I said, standing, my voice clear. Grandma left it to me, along with everything you tried to bully me into giving away. You manipulated her, my father shouted, stepping toward me, his face purple with rage. You scheming, ungrateful. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Caldwell interrupted, his tone sharp. This meeting is recorded. Given your documented history of violence toward Clara, I suggest you sit down. My father froze, his eyes darting to the blinking red lights of the security cameras. The room fell silent, the air heavy with shock. There's more, Mr. Caldwell said, adjusting his bow tie. Evelyn left a video message. Shall we play it? Before anyone could object, Grandma's face appeared on the conference room screen. She looked frail, her silver hair thin, but her hawk-like eyes pierced the camera, unyielding. If you're watching this, she began, her voice raspy but commanding, Clara's done what I taught her, stood her ground. I've watched you, Robert, Lillian, dismiss her achievements, belittle her work, and prop up Vanessa despite her lack of discipline. Clara has resolve, vision, and the patience to wait for the right moment. That's why she gets everything. Not because she's my favorite, but because she's earned it. My mother was sobbing now, her hands trembling, whether from guilt or manipulation, I couldn't tell. My father's face was ashen, his hands gripping the table. Vanessa stared at her phone on the floor, her dreams of an easy windfall crumbling. Grandma's voice continued, softer now. Clara, I trust you to lead, not destroy. Show them what resolve means. Show them what a Hayes can be. The screen went dark. The room was silent, save for my mother's sniffles. Mr. Mess Caldwell cleared his throat. Clara, would you like to address the room? I stood, my heart steady, pulling out a folder of my own, months of work, guided by Grandma's mentorship in her final days. Hayes Innovations is failing, I said, my voice ringing clear. We've lost 40% of our market share in 5 years. Our AI algorithms are outdated, our logistics platform is bleeding clients, and employee turnover is at 55%. I'm taking over as CEO, effective immediately. You can't, my father sputtered, his voice hoarse. I've run this company for 25 years. Into the ground, I said, sliding financial reports across the table, their red ink stark against the white pages. 3 major clients have dropped us. Our biggest competitor, Logitech, is eating our lunch because you refuse to invest in machine learning. Grandma saw it, and she tried to warn you. Aunt Susan picked up a report, her eyes scanning the numbers. Evelyn told you to modernize, Robert. You called her ideas pipe dreams. First, I continued, ignoring my father's glare, I'm replacing the board. No more of your golf buddies or Vanessa's exes. I've recruited industry experts, Dr. Elena Martinez from MIT, Sanjay Rao from Google, people who know AI and logistics. You'll bankrupt us, my mother cried, clutching her purse. Mr. Caldwell handed out projections, his expression neutral. Actually, these plans could triple profitability in 2 years, based on conservative estimates. I turned to Vanessa, who hadn't spoken since the will was read, her eyes fixed on the floor. You want a startup? Fine. The company's launching a sustainability initiative, AI-driven supply chain transparency for eco-friendly brands. You can lead it, but only if you enroll in business school, get a degree, and submit a viable plan. Vanessa blinked, her voice barely audible. You're giving me a chance. An opportunity to earn it, I corrected, my tone firm. Unlike what you did to me at the party. My father stood again, his anger desperate, his voice shaking. This is my company, my legacy. No, I said, my voice cold, my eyes locked on his. It's mine, and you're sitting in an office you don't own, threatening the person who controls your future. What's your legacy, Dad? A failing company? A viral video of you hitting your daughter? I handed my parents' contracts, their pages crisp and final. You can stay with the company, entry-level roles. Product testing for you, Dad. Customer relations for you, Mom. Learn the business from the ground up, like I did during my internships while Vanessa was chasing followers in Europe. Entry level? My mother whispered, her voice breaking, her pearls trembling against her chest. Or buy the estate at market value, I said. Or pack your bags. The mansion's being sold to fund our AI overhaul. The room was silent, the weight of my words settling over everyone. Aunt Susan's smile was subtle but unmistakable, her pride clear. Vanessa spoke first, her voice shaky but resolute. I'll do it, she said, meeting my gaze for the first time. The sustainability project. I'll get the degree, make the plan. I want to earn it. I nodded, seeing something new in her eyes. Maybe determination, maybe respect, maybe the first spark of accountability. You have 6 months to prove it, I said. Don't waste it. As the meeting ended, relatives filed out, whispering among themselves. Lily muttered something about unfair, but Nate gave me a grin, his phone still recording. Aunt Susan lingered, pulling me into a hug. Evelyn would be proud, she said, her voice soft. You showed mercy without weakness. She taught me well, I replied, my eyes on the folder of plans. Grandma's vision, now mine. Sometimes the best revenge is giving people a chance to face their failures and grow. The next 3 months were a whirlwind. I moved into a small apartment in Albany, closer to Hayes Innovations headquarters, and threw myself in the company. My first act as CEO was firing the old board, a group of my father's cronies who'd rubber-stamped his every decision. Dr. Martinez and Sanjay Rao joined me in recruiting a new team, and we spent late nights rebuilding our AI platform, integrating cutting-edge neural networks to optimize supply chains. The work was grueling, but every line of code, every meeting, felt like a step toward honoring Grandma's trust. My father, to my surprise, accepted the product testing role, though his pride made every interaction tense. I'd catch him in the lab, his sleeves rolled up, tinkering with prototypes, a flicker of the engineer he'd been before ego took over. This is good work, he muttered once, holding a sensor we'd redesigned. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. My mother declined the customer relations job, opting instead to downsize to a condo in the suburbs. Aunt Susan called it character building, noting my mother's complaints about cooking her own meals. Vanessa enrolled in an accelerated business program, her Instagram posts shifting from selfies to study notes and supply chain diagrams. Her sustainability proposal, submitted 2 weeks ago, was rough but promising, detailing a blockchain-based system for tracking eco-friendly materials. I didn't expect her to try, I admitted to Priya over coffee one weekend. She's scared, Priya said, grinning. You showed her what losing looks like. Now she's fighting to keep up. Hayes Innovations began to turn around. Our new AI platform attracted 2 major clients, including one we'd lost under my father's watch. Employee morale soared with the equity program, which gave every worker a stake in our success. Our stock price climbed 25%, and industry blogs started calling us the comeback kid of logistics tech. In quiet moments, I'd sit in my office, once my father's, and run my fingers over Grandma's bracelet, now displayed on my desk beside a photo of us at my Stanford graduation. Resolve, I'd whisper, her voice echoing in my mind. One evening, Vanessa knocked on my office door, her laptop under her arm. Can we talk? She asked, her voice hesitant. I gestured to a chair. What's up? She opened her laptop, showing a revised proposal, twice as detailed as her first. I've been researching carbon-neutral supply chains, she said, her words rushed but earnest. I think we can pitch this to Patagonia. I want to make it work, Clara, not just for me, but for the company. I studied her, searching for the smirk, the entitlement. It wasn't there. Why the change? I asked. She looked down, her fingers twisting. I saw the video. Grandma's video. She was right about me. I've been coasting, expecting handouts. When you gave me this chance, I realized I don't want to be that person anymore. I leaned back, considering. Keep refining the proposal. If it's solid, we'll pitch it together. Her eyes widened. Together? You're a Hayes, I said, a faint smile tugging at my lips. Earn it, and you're in. She nodded, a spark of determination in her eyes, laughed and left. I turned to the window, the Albany skyline glittering beyond. Grandma's words came back. Show them what a Hayes can be. 6 months later, Hayes Innovations was unrecognizable. Our AI platform won an industry award, and Patagonia signed on for Vanessa's sustainability project, now a flagship initiative. My father, still in product testing, started mentoring new hires, his gruff demeanor softening. My mother invited me to her condo for dinner, her first attempt at lasagna, a little burnt but sincere. Vanessa graduated her program early, her commencement speech quoting Grandma, "Resolve isn't given, it's built." In my office, I keep a small box on my shelf, holding a scorched piece of confetti from my birthday party, the night it all began. It's not a reminder of pain, but of rebirth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something stronger, on your own terms, and giving others the chance to rise with you. The weeks following the will reading were a test of everything Grandma Evelyn had taught me. Running Hayes Innovations wasn't just about strategy. It was about surviving the fallout of my family's betrayal and the vultures circling the company. My office, a glass-walled corner suite on the 12th floor of our Albany headquarters, became my war room. Spreadsheets, code repositories, and market analyses littered my desk, but Grandma's bracelet, Resolve, sat front and center, a quiet reminder of why I was here. Every decision, every late night, was for her legacy, not just mine. My father's presence in the product testing lab was both a challenge and a strange comfort. He'd taken the entry-level role, his pride a bruised but stubborn thing. I'd see him in the lab, his tie loosened, testing sensor prototypes with a focus I hadn't seen since I was a kid, back when he'd tinker in the garage with Grandma's first algorithms. "This one's got potential," he said one afternoon, holding up a redesigned chip, his voice gruff but lacking its usual edge. I nodded, unsure if it was progress or just exhaustion. My mother, meanwhile, was adjusting to her new life in a modest condo, a far cry from the sprawling estate she'd lorded over for decades. Aunt Susan sent me updates, half amused, half sympathetic. Lillian tried hosting a book club last week, burnt the quiche and cried about her old chef. She's learning. I didn't reply, but I kept her dinner invitation pinned to my fridge, a small gesture I wasn't ready to accept yet. Vanessa was the real surprise. She'd thrown herself into her business program, her Instagram now a mix of study notes, supply chain diagrams, and quotes about grit. Her revised sustainability proposal, which I'd reviewed last week, showed promise. A blockchain system to track eco-friendly materials with data integration for our AI platform. It wasn't perfect, but it was earnest, a word I'd never associated with her. "I'm pitching to Patagonia next month," she'd told me, her voice steady but nervous. "Will you look at my slides?" I'd agreed, curious to see if her spark of determination would hold. But not everyone was adapting quietly. A new threat emerged, one Grandma had warned me about in one of our last conversations. "The company's vulnerable," she'd said, her hospital bed surrounded by monitors. "Success breeds enemies, Clara. Watch Logitech. They've been sniffing around our patents for years." I'd nodded, filing it away, but now, as CEO, I saw the signs. Logitech, our biggest competitor, was making moves, poaching our engineers, undercutting our contracts, and, according to an anonymous tip Nate forwarded from an X post, digging into our proprietary code. I called an emergency meeting with my new board, Dr. Elena Martinez, Sanjay Rao, and 3 other industry veterans I'd recruited. We gathered in the conference room, the same one where the will had upended my family's world. "Logitech's targeting our AI core," I said, projecting a leaked email Nate had sourced, detailing their plan to replicate our logistics algorithms. "They've got an inside source. Someone's feeding them data." Sanjay frowned, his fingers drumming the table. "Could be a disgruntled employee. Your father's old board wasn't exactly loyal." "Or a family member?" Elena added, her eyes sharp. "Your father's still got friends in the company, Clara, and Vanessa, she's new to this." I shook my head. "Vanessa's green, but she's not a traitor. My father's too proud to sabotage his own legacy, even if he hates me running it. Still, doubt gnawed at me. I remembered Grandma's warning, watch everything. That night, I stayed late, digging through access logs with Priya, who'd flown in from California to help. "You sure about Vanessa?" she asked, her laptop glowing in the dim office. "She's got motive. Resentment, money troubles." "She's trying," I said, scanning a suspicious login from an external IP. "But I'm not ruling anyone out." Priya grinned. "There's the hawk. Grandma would approve." The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Caldwell. "Clara, we've got a problem," he said, his voice tense. "Logitech filed a patent application identical to your new neural network design. Someone leaked it." My blood ran cold. The neural network was the heart of our AI overhaul, months of work I'd spearheaded with the team. "How?" I asked, gripping the phone. "Working on it," he said, "but you need to act fast. They're presenting at a trade summit next week. If they claim the patent, you're done." I hung up, my mind racing. Grandma's voice echoed, "Strike when the moment's right." I called Nate. "I need everything you can dig up on Logitech. Contacts, deals, anything shady. Use X, dark web, whatever it takes." "On it," he said, his voice eager. "You think this is personal?" "I think it's war," I replied. As I waited for Nate's intel, memories of Grandma flooded back, grounding me. One evening, 2 years ago, she'd called me to her study, a wood-paneled room lined with books and old computers. I was 23, home from Stanford for the summer, exhausted from coding marathons. She'd poured me tea, Earl Grey her favorite, and handed me a binder of company reports. "Read these," she'd said, her eyes piercing. "Hayes Innovations is yours one day, Clara. Not your father's, not Vanessa's, yours." I'd laughed, thinking she was joking. "Dad runs the company, Grandma. I'm just the nerdy kid." She'd leaned forward, her voice low. "Your father's a dreamer, not a builder. He coasts on my work, but the world's changing, AI, automation, sustainability. You understand code, people, systems. You're the hawk, Clara. You see the whole picture." We'd spent hours that summer, her teaching me the company's history. How she'd coded the first logistics algorithm on a clunky IBM in 1984, how she'd fought off hostile takeovers, how she'd built a culture of innovation only to watch my father stagnate it. "Patience is power," she'd said one night, her hands steady despite her illness. "Don't react. Plan. Document everything. When the time comes, you'll know." Now, sitting in my office, I opened that same binder, kept in a locked drawer. Her handwritten notes filled the margins. "Watch cash flow. Trust your team. Never underestimate greed." I traced her words, feeling her presence. She'd known this day would come, not just the family betrayal, but the external threats. She'd prepared me, not just with the will, but with wisdom. Nate's email arrived at midnight, a treasure trove of dirt. Logitech's CEO, Victor Klein, had met with one of my father's old board members, Gerald Holt, weeks before the patent filing. X posts linked Holt to offshore accounts, and a leaked chat showed him bragging about teaching the Hayes girl a lesson. My father wasn't the traitor, but his allies were. I called an emergency board meeting the next day, presenting Nate's findings. "Holt's working with Logitech," I said, projecting the evidence. "He's got access to our old servers. My father gave him admin privileges years ago." Elena cursed under her breath. "Sloppy. We need to lock him out now." "Done," I said, having already revoked access with our IT team. "But the damage is out there. We need to counter Logitech at the summit." Sanjay leaned forward. "We go public. Show our neural network first. Prove it's ours. File a counter patent and sue for theft." "Risky," Elena said. "We'd need airtight proof." "We have it," I said, pulling up logs showing Holt's unauthorized downloads, time-stamped before Logitech's filing. "And we've got Grandma's original designs, predating their patent by months." The board agreed, and we spent 48 hours preparing, a demo of our AI, a press release, and a legal brief. I barely slept, fueled by coffee and Grandma's words. Soar above the noise. The trade summit in Boston was a glittering affair, tech execs and investors packed into a sleek convention center. I wore Grandma's bracelet, its weight steadying me as I took the stage, my team behind me. Logitech's booth across the hall buzzed with interest, Victor Klein smirking as he demoed their neural network. My father was there in the audience, his face unreadable. Vanessa sat beside him, her notebook open, no phone in sight, a first. I began my presentation, my voice steady. "Hayes Innovations is proud to unveil our next-generation AI logistics platform, built on a neural network designed in-house. The screen lit up with our demo, real-time supply chain optimization, cutting costs by 30%. The crowd murmured, impressed. Then I dropped the bomb. This technology was developed over the past year with roots in Evelyn Hayes' original algorithms from 1984. Recently, we discovered an attempt to steal our work. I paused, letting the tension build, then displayed the logs. Logitech's patent filing is based on proprietary data illegally accessed by a former board member, Gerald Holt. We filed a counter patent and a lawsuit for intellectual property theft. The room erupted, cameras flashing, investors whispering. Klein's smirk vanished as reporters swarmed him. My father's jaw tightened, but he didn't move. Vanessa's eyes widened, her pen frozen. After the presentation, Klein approached, his face red. "You're making a mistake, Hayes. You can't prove anything." I smiled, channeling Grandma. "The evidence is with the patent office and the internet. Check X. Your buddy Holt's chats are trending." He stormed off, and I turned to find my father waiting. "Was that necessary?" he asked, his voice low. "Dragging the company through a public fight?" "You dragged it through worse," I said. "Holt was your friend. You gave him access." He flinched, then nodded. "I didn't know." "I believe you," I said, and I meant it. "Help me fix it. Stay in the lab. Build something real." He looked at me, his eyes tired but clear. "I'm trying, Clara." Vanessa approached next, her notebook clutched tight. "That was incredible," she said. "I didn't realize how much you were carrying." "You're carrying something now, too," I said, nodding at her notebook. "Make it count." 9 months after the will reading, Hayes Innovations was unrecognizable. The lawsuit against Logitech succeeded, their patent application denied, and Holt faced charges for data theft. Our AI platform won 2 industry awards, and Patagonia signed a $10 million contract for Vanessa's sustainability initiative, now a cornerstone of our brand. Employee morale hit record highs, the equity program giving every worker a stake in our success. Our stock soared 40%, and Forbes ran a feature, Clara Hayes, the Hawk of Hayes Innovations. My father stayed in product testing, mentoring new engineers, and rediscovering his love for the work. He apologized one evening haltingly over coffee in my office. "I was wrong," he said, his voice rough. "About you, about the company. I'm proud of you, Clara." I nodded, my throat tight. "Keep building, Dad. That's enough." My mother invited me to dinner again, her lasagna better this time, her pride softer but genuine. "I underestimated you," she said, passing the garlic bread. "Evelyn saw it. I didn't." Vanessa graduated her program with honors, her commencement speech quoting Grandma, "Resolve isn't given, it's built." Her sustainability project expanded, attracting new clients and a TED Talk invitation. She thanked me publicly, a moment that went viral on X, captioned "Sisters Rebuilding a Legacy." In my office, I keep a scorched piece of confetti from my birthday party, sealed in a glass box beside Grandma's bracelet. It's not about pain, it's about rebirth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something stronger, giving others a chance to rise, and proving that resolve, not entitlement, defines a legacy.